Well, looky here, ladies and gentlemen. If we don't have an always on the grow treat, as you can finally see the gentleman adjusting his sails because we're getting ready to launch this ship, baby. Man, I'm pumped. I got to tell you, brother, the the time that we met, the time that we've had to be able to connect, and hell, man, I even think that some of the stuff we were talking about earlier today on the phone is worthy of podcast material.
Oh,
So I'm
oh yeah,
definitely gonna bring that back.
I'm all about the good stuff for sure. Absolutely.
I don't think enough people know that about you, man. I think people see you in the spotlight for entertainment, acting, TV. But in our interactions, I've been able to really see a side of you, man, that I think smart dude. I'm not kidding when I say this. I think genius. I think go-getter businessman. Just a dude that's really rocking it, man. So I really want to peel back a lot of those layers of that onion because I think it'll be great. And that's how I flow, if you know what I'm saying, man.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, for sure.
ladies and gentlemen, if you don't recognize this guy right here, right now, he's the one and only Rob. I call him Robert Ri'chard. He's been in a shit ton of different movies and TV shows, all up on the big screen in the Hollywood, and is doing some epic stuff. But now he's not only doing that, he's now coming over to the other side as an entrepreneur and really driving some great business, really standing behind some products very firmly, very passionately, and things that he cares about, and doing a great job with that, right? So it's exciting to have you here, man. Let's start off with this because I want to roll it back just a few hours ago when we were talking about this, man. I'm gonna roll out the gates and hit him hard with this, and then we'll let you kind of jump in and tell a little bit about yourself because I think it was sexy what you're saying earlier about what it was your dad taught you as a man and how that helped you become part of who you are today. And I don't want to let those moments go because as much as we like to talk about all the fun and sexy stuff, there's some things in here that make us better in life. And that's what this show is always about, is making meaningful progress and that pursuit of self-actualization. So for you, if you could roll that back a few hours to our conversation earlier, share with me what it was your dad was doing for you, man, to help shape you.
Yeah, I just think that, I was very, very blessed to have a very proficient, loving, active, mindful, always arriving like father. I thank God for that. And, there's so much that I feel like I've learned through osmosis just by having, a strong man right behind me my entire life. It's great. And just the idea of making that important, keeping that important and paying it forward. A lot of people are family planning right now. Some people don't have the example because they never had a father, and some people are just trying to figure it out. But to know that I feel like my value system was shaped by a man who, loved his son, loved his family. It's just, I couldn't be more blessed or more lucky in the world, I think.
Yeah, amen, man. Look, I get it, father to son type of thing. Sometimes you look back in hindsight, you see that your daddy did this for you, your mommy did this for you, and you take away a little bit of the best of both. When you say values there, talk to me about some of the Robert Ri'chard values that have helped you to live forward.
When I was a kid, every single night before I went to bed, I sat next to my dad on my knees and said my prayers every single night.
Wow.
Like after I brush my teeth, go sit next to my dad and say my prayers. And so I would say top of the list is God first, or God over everything. The first four letters in the Bible is in the beginning, God. And I feel like that's just pretty much the answer to nearly everything that we encounter.
Sure.
So I try and just keep, God top of mind, and a very present God, a very present Father. That's a God who, rules everything, the entire universe. Keep him in mind first before you do anything. And that's given me both confidence, self-reliance, self-esteem, keep myself humble, know that I can't do it alone, see the opportunities that he's putting in front of me. And just having that resilience and that determination to just push through. It's important. And some people, you know, they're still learning about God, but he'll find you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like,
you
you
get
think
tested.
about think about one time you get pulled over without having a driver's license, you start screaming for God. So, you know, some people they talk about spirituality in the universe. I'm like, yeah, but when you really grow up like having a connection with like God, you see like how present he is in every single thing that you do. And
Mm.
it's almost as if he's having an active dialogue, I mean, with me constantly. And to not be afraid of that and to not try and diminish that and just be like, oh, it's the universe. No, the universe exists. And the universe has stuff like karma, but that ain't God. There's
Mm.
God above the universe.
Right.
Right. So he created it. So he's not in it, he's above it. He's, you know, he created time, matter, and space. So you know, having that someone next to me who I admired, who looked up to me, who made that something that was beautiful for me or attainable, like it changes my existence. I feel like I can outwork anybody because of that.
Yeah. Well, I don't think for you, man, you like your work ethic is obviously second to none. You've got a ton of energy, but I think you like talking about on the God thing, right? Like the blessing that you've been granted and given and just life for acting and for your looks. Like, dude, you're a good looking dude. I mean, your swag. I mean, that's somebody else is probably waking up today and thinking, dude, I don't like my life. I'm ugly. I wish I could do that. I wish I could do that. And if my life was this way, then that would, really solve a lot of my problems. Do you ever take a
But
step? Yeah,
go ahead, go ahead.
do you accept that blessing in a deep sense? Like you really like understand that, and I think that probably sheds some light into how you are confidently and proactive in your endeavors, right? I would imagine so.
I would say that I'm more in service to others to feel that.
Hmm.
That not that it's even like that's it's even self absorbed or self-contained or self-conceited. I think that it's my job to work for others and to serve others. I mean, that's like what I love to do more than anything. I like to be of service to mankind.
Yeah,
And so if I could figure out, you know, a couple of life hacks, whether it be, you know, my highway fit, everybody knows that workout and it's fucking changed lives, millions of lives now. And, you know, now I got this one right here, EPM products is the website. And, you know, if you got some surface imbalance or you got, you know, some psoriasis, eczema, rosacea, I mean, I'm not a dentist, so I can't fix anybody's teeth, but I can at least say, hey, what I'm using to try and stay young and youthful and healthful, I can at least pay that forward and show the way. And then, you know, I just try and tell people about great nutrition and, you know, putting family first and God over everything. I just try and be a good example and be of service.
yeah,
You know, I
man.
feel like anything, any bar is that I set for myself, I try to exceed it.
Sure.
And helping others is a very, very high bar on my list.
When you like, let's roll it back quite a bit, man, because you obviously have no problem setting the bars for yourself. And when I think about obviously having got to know you and maybe even from the beginning part when I started understanding more about your journey, you got into the arena of entertainment early, right? As a kid. Is that a thing that was accidentally ran into by you, or was that more of a deliberate thing that you wanted to go into? And then, or did you recognize you had some talent young? Like, where is the source of some of this discovery for you that launched you into this career that would take you off, that would now get you to this point to be able to have a lot more opportunities in front of you?
The men in my life, my father, my grandfather, and my older brothers, my two older brothers, they were pushing military down my throat.
Oh, wow.
So I was going to be a scientist. I went to school at the NASA Space Academy in Huntsville, Alabama. I tested at Johns Hopkins at a very young age. I was a scientist. I was a scientist, and I was just a bad kid in LA. It was the '90s, you know, and I just like to fight. I had a bad temper, and you know, one time I was outnumbered. Went to, you know, I was like outnumbered by a rival gang. I used to gang bang, you know, and did into this random building, and then it just happened to be acting school, and I was just in there stalling. So I just really think that I kind of ran to this out of nowhere. And the truth is I wish that I was a creative. I'm not. I just like, I see acting as like my craft as like a system. I see it like an algorithm. I see it like a science project.
Oh,
And I've been able to try and put So I was saying that I'm really pushing my left brain mentality into my sort of like career, the creative part, the right side of my craft. And I would say it's pretty analytical. So
Okay, so it's very fascinating that you would bring it up like that. Couple things I want to dissect there. You said you treat it, it's like a system that you use from a scientist perspective in an in an arena, or in essence a craft that requires an extreme amount of emotionalism, if that's even a word. But you have to be able to go somewhere so deeply to embody that individual that you're portraying or you're acting on behalf of. So talk to me about how you have approached that. Like, how do you get there mentally to take it to that level? Maybe as it pertains to a skill that can be developed by anybody that's listening here, right? Because I think there's a lot to be learned from someone like you for just the real world, or just somebody that's identifying, hey, how do I make progress in this department, or an inch forward in that capacity. I'm very curious what you think about that.
yeah, so I mean, I understand kind of who I'm in competition with. Like, I feel like I'm in competition with AI.
Hmm.
Like, you know how there's that Instagram thing that's going around where like I guess you send your pictures into like an AI thing and then it like creates these like amazing creative like cartoon versions of
Yeah, yeah,
yourself.
yeah, yeah. Yep.
Well, my thing is like, okay, as beautiful as everyone looks from this computer, how come we don't feel anything? We're like, oh, it's a pretty picture, but it don't hit us the same way that like a Michelangelo's Sistine Chapel hits us, or like a Michelangelo's David, or like a Da Vinci. Like there's certain things that are in art that like pierce more than just like, oh, that's a beautiful photo. So there's like a soul tie to like even just digital creativity,
Hmm.
and I feel like that element is the God element, which is
Interesting.
which is what's first for me in everything that I do. Let me see. Let me see if I can find this math quote that I have. What's my
Ridiculous,
name?
man.
Robert.
What's my name? Oh, we have to chop that one up and let everybody know his man just said, "What's my name?"
Wait, where's this? I gotta find this. I gotta find this thing that I put. Hold on. It's called. What did I say? It's specificity. Yeah, that even in acting, the Ri'chard method, the mathematical specificity and scientific approach to the sequential storytelling intended by the writer as black and white facts.
Hmm.
These facts are verbatim, making the abstract concrete through punctuation and meaning making. The Ri'chard method is not to read, but to meticulously comprehend and digest. That's my acting method.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Is that something that you can teach to some other
I teach it to
individual?
everybody. I got a class in Hollywood, and I'm like, if you ask any of my students, they're like, I'm blown away about what I learned in the first 25 minutes of class in Rock. My
Hmm.
students like, you know, I I would say that I'm a tough coach,
Yeah, yeah.
uh, but
I wouldn't doubt that. I would
but my
absolutely agree with that.
but my students say that they're like, I love you and you changed my life with what you're doing for my career, my passion, and what I want driving. That's the whole point of being of service, right?
Hmm.
I'm there to do that.
Sure. I remember that time when you called me, you were in Vegas and you're like, dude, I need to do a quick little audition. And I was like, I'm at the office. And you straight up were like, I'm coming right now. And we were in that room. In fact, I have video and photos of it because I was like, yeah, I'm gonna get in there, man. I'm gonna mess with them, have some fun. And you just picked up this script, you hit it like twice, and then you just started being the character. And I'm over here like trying to read the script and figure it out and acting like a fool, sounding dumb. And you just transformed in front of my very eyes. It's like, dude, that's why I think a lot of people have respect for what happens in the world of Hollywood, because to go there and do that so instantaneously, like I was trying to do it and I was so far from accomplishing that you made it look so easy and flawless. I was like, that's why he's who he is, because dude, you just are able to do that. That part of it is there something in that if you can go back to that moment, you and I, because only you and I were there, where somebody can go in their life or in their business or even as an actor or actress, like to get in that moment, because you were just like snap and then you were in it, right? It was almost like you didn't need any preparation. You didn't need to get ready. You were on camera shooting the audition and then it was being sent out almost within a matter of 15 to 20 minutes. I found that
Yeah.
super fascinating. Very fascinating.
I mean, I think a lot of it has to do with just my approach. Like, I really see the writers' words, the black and white ink on the page, like an equation in a lot of ways. So, like, you know how, like, if someone said to you, like, 3 + 3 = 6, but like if someone said to you, like, 3 plus = 6, you're like, what? 3 plus? What do you mean? Like, you're like, the syntax matters of how it's said. So like the first thing I'm doing is like making sure that all the equations line up, that like everything is like 1 + 1 = 2, 2 + 2 = 4. That it's all written the right way. And then after that, I'm attaching specificity, emotion. I'm creating stakes and intensity. I'm building body language, urgency, and then relying on God instincts after all that work is done to just nail a part. And I feel like that's as close as real life as you can get, which is my job.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. So when you say nail a part, how are you receiving that feedback loop and in terms of like essentially a victory in that category? Are you getting acknowledged by the director? Are you saying, is that getting the job itself? Is it winning an award? Like, what does that actual nailing a part mean to you?
I think it means two things for me. Number one, I think the audience is first. You know, basically, people, life is hard. It's fucking hard.
Yeah, man. Kicks your
And
ass a
so,
little bit here
like,
and
when
there.
people get home and they're like on their couch eating popcorn, chocolate, chips, French fries, whatever, with a freaking remote control in their hand, when they stop, I want them to be like, this is why I'm here on the couch. Like, Rob is that entertaining. He's funny. He makes you cry. He's angry. I'm rooting for him. He's the villain. All this stuff. Like, that's the part that I love the most. Is like the people being like, "Yo, I watched your shit. It was fucking incredible." And then the second part is like just booking jobs. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like making people in Hollywood, casting directors, see that it's very, very important to be mindful of the fact that people at home are in every kind of category. There's Hispanics, whites, blacks, yellow, Asian, whatever, Hawaiian, people all over the fucking world. People come from every religious background, every health background. And so my job is to do something that really God does for everyone, which is like hit that nerve. It's that X factor where no matter where you come from, you're like, I relate to that, whether I'm being a villain or being a hero.
Yeah.
So, you know, sometimes with casting directors or directors or producers, I'm like, I want you guys to hear me to say, like, I've sat in a lot of living rooms. I've sat with grandparents and moms and dads and little kids and teenagers and adults who are single and in relationships. I love people. So when I'm making this suggestion of how we should move this story and how my character should be and how we should all be interacting on set, I'm mindful of them being at home, being like, either they make $20 an hour or $200 an hour. I don't know, but they should feel like this is the best thing in the world for them. So that's kind of like what I think of most is like my true victory. But then yeah, I want to book jobs.
It's the fact that you would even lead with that, man, is what is astonishing, because you said audience first, right? Which I don't think a lot of people would really go there. I mean, that's a really business forward, even a marketing approach. Like, you got to know your audience, right? Who are you connecting with? And essentially,
well, you know, in a lot of ways, I think that the same philosophy is like what MJ said. He said, you don't know how much money some parents saved up to take their kid to see my game. So he plays every night and he tries to score 40 points every night because you don't know who's in the crowd who saved up for months for that game. You know?
True. So
true. I think that's kind of where like my head comes from. And then, you know, obviously people know that Kobe's my favorite athlete. You know, a lot of his, you know, mental philosophies I definitely have adopted. And, I just want to be, you know, like hit the best is an understatement. Like I want to hit that nerve. Like a
Yeah.
great song. I mean, sometimes a great song is just, it can be simple song. It just like hits the nerve. And you're just like, damn, that's a great ass song.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you feel that like of all your work that you've mowed through so far, do you feel that you continue to hit the nerve, or do you feel like there was other
No, I
performances
feel
or
like I continue to hit the nerve. I
yeah.
mean, I feel like there's a little bit of disconnect with like, this sounds wrong to say because every generation says this shit in my day. But I feel like there was a high level of excellence that existed to the people that had a lot of eyeballs on them. And now we live in a world where people can have tons of eyeballs on them and not necessarily carry the same level of development, excellence, and execution that we've seen before. Which is like, like basically the 90s, like number one pop star is Michael Jackson, number one pop star of all time.
Right.
Number one basketball player, Michael Jordan, number one basketball player of all time. And there's so many people who were like that in that era. Like, I don't know, Bruce Lee. It's like Bruce Lee was Bruce Lee. He was like playing ping pong with his nunchucks, like against professional Olympic ping pong players who's that good at kung fu. Like, what? I'm like, we don't have that level of like striving for excellence in our modern day culture. You can get a lot done with mediocrity these days.
That's a really good point, man. I heard something recently. I think it was in your field, and I know you do many things, but I was reading something, and I'm kind of butchering it a little bit, but I know exactly what the kind of premise was. It was about a lady that was a great actress that was up for a part, and there was another lady that was competing with her, but the other lady had a bigger social following, so she ended up getting the part more though that she was a worse actress than the other one. The other one's a really good actress and would have probably crushed it, and she was like obviously frustrated, but she said, unfortunately, that's just the world we live in now, right? If you've got X amount of eyeballs on you, it kind of drowns out the ability or the necessarily the talent that you have. And I was like, it's fascinating. You're right, man. So
I mean, also too, like, I gotta put it on the directors too. I mean, the directors of the 90s were like Steven Spielberg, like James Cameron made Titanic, like George Lucas made Star Wars. Like the filmmakers of that time, they needed Tom Cruise. They wanted to make the best film ever. And so like now it's like if a director's like looking at like, well, how am I gonna get the film like just more attention? I'm like, probably by making it better with better actors. Like cast Denzel. Don't cast the dude who's not Denzel because he's got more followers than Denzel. Just I'm Denzel. Shit. Right. But but like the directors and the producers, like their goal must not be make the most pivotal film ever. Right?
Yeah, which is kind of the unspoken, right? Which is what you don't know, which is what's the goal? Like why are they doing this whole thing? And that's kind of the locker room talk that only a few people would have access to. And the rest of the world is just going to see a film, and they're getting their popcorn, they're sitting down, they're having their cherry rope from, the sweet tarts or whatever, and they're enjoying.
But it says you reap what you sow. So, you don't put in the work and then you don't come out. Like that's a vicious cycle. I'm like, come on, guys, invest more.
How are you, Rob? How are you reinventing yourself constantly? Right. I mean, I know now you're like obviously extremely versatile in how you approach certain things you do. But obviously, like you've gone through these phases as well. You rock star young, and you hit a next generation, and then you graduate again. And are you considering yourself keeping up with that and in your pursuit of, obviously keeping on with that level of excellence? Obviously you value it. So is your process like study? Is your process like, what's being said inside the industry? Is your process being inside the audition rooms? Is it at the scene? On set? Like, what is your sort of rotating way?
The kids are always right. Like, listen, no one's smarter than a fifth grader. So whatever the fifth grader says, that's what's cool. That's what we should do. You know, it's like, it's funny, like, you know, like we're from the era of like video games. So like,
Mhm.
you know, our parents didn't have video games. We had Nintendo, Sega, Nintendo 64, Xbox, PlayStation. It's like,
That's
yo,
right.
because we're smarter than you.
Yeah.
Well, like now the new kids, they got new tools. They're smarter than us. And like, if you think as an adult that you know more than a 15-year-old kid, like you're kidding yourself. So my thing is like, one, just be open-minded, listen to them. Two,
Mhm.
follow suit. Like that's the best, smartest thing I can do is just like, whatever a 15-year-old says is cool, do that. Right. And then three, like just stay young-minded. Don't become some old grump. You know, like just, you know, stay with pop culture. I mean, it's like, can you imagine your parents telling you how bad Eminem was the first time they saw Slim Shady? And now you look back and I'm like, yeah, mom, but that guy you said was bad just performed at the Super Bowl and had the
Yeah.
greatest Super Bowl performance of all time,
Right.
including Dr. Dre, including who's Snoopy Doggy,
Yeah.
and you know what I'm saying, and 50 Cent. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like, you know, that I think, you know, the kids kind of give you a compass and a north star to where we should all be going.
I think, yeah, man. I think that's a genius way to look at it too. What a methodology that you employ there. It's a really neat thing because you ask a kid what's going on in your world, they're going to tell you about 35,000 things that are happening about the newest technology, the newest game set, this thing, that thing. And you're like, well, I guess I really don't know shit. Trying to figure this out.
Well,
Um,
because also too, I say like, listen, in two things. If you go on a game show, are you smarter than the fifth graders? The fifth graders are smarter than all the adults. Facts, right? And two, they're in school for 8 hours a day. You're not. Like as an adult, you may study what, 15 minutes a day,
right.
an hour a day. These kids are studying. They're getting up at 7 o'clock in the morning. They're on a routine, on a schedule. They got class every single day at the same time. Their brains are working. They're
Yeah.
like, dude, I do more work than you in a day.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good. I like that a lot because that makes
A
me think
15
about.
year old is out working a 45-year-old every day of the week.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, except for the rare 45-year-olds that are just crushing it and dominating.
Yeah,
Right.
for sure. But then there's also that rare 15-year-old who's crushing it too. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, of course.
Like that 45-year-old who's crushing it is being compared to that 15-year-old Tiger Woods who's like, yeah, you crushing it, but I'm the next generation. I'm crushing it.
Yeah, yeah. Amen,
Right.
man.
I put a smart genius 15-year-old against a smart 45-year-old who's business high school any day.
There's a battle of the different generations, man. That'd be a fun. See, there's your next. Like, you got to go pitch that show, man.
That would be great, bro. Because the thing about it is like, you know, like it is a young Bill Gates that becomes Bill Gates,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right?
So
And
true.
it's all these young people who develop, but like they saw a world that we didn't even see, but they saw it as a kid. Like, can you imagine like the mindset of like even like a Steve Jobs, how young he must have been to be thinking like, I want to make a phone with no buttons. Like what? Like what are you talking about? Like what are you smoking? But like the whole world has changed. Now, if you have a phone with a button on it, you feel like a retard. Like your phone's
Yeah.
those buttons, right? So
Yeah,
like,
man.
so like these kids' imagination and stuff is just like it's absolutely just brilliant. And you know, that's why I was going back to fathership. We're talking earlier. You gotta like be of service to your kid. You're like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm here just to be the dirt. You're the plant. You get
Yeah.
to grow endlessly. I just got to make sure I provide the right nutrients to you for you to be the biggest tree you can be.
Yeah, man. I think it's a strong point there, and I think at fatherhood now, it's given me a new lens on life. But I've realized, like, dude, I'm 37 now, and like I'm almost like I'm at the middle point of my what are an average lifespan of years, which is like gives you this interesting point perspective to start saying, okay, well, do I go harder now or do I adjust my strategy for the next phase where there's just different dynamics in total? And so it's really helping me, like this, for example, like I kid you not, why I'm here is because I thoroughly, literally love doing this. Like this, like talking to people like you and building a brand around a show like this. I was trying to do it in different directions. And so back at you, you've lived a great life. And I'm saying that from we talked about this earlier, an experiential standpoint where you've seen it all, dude. You've been in the biggest parties with the biggest names, whether that's billionaire in business, whether that's, this top musician or actress in Hollywood, co-starred with them. You've probably experienced that to the 10th degree. So how does a guy like you paint a picture for someone else out there that is evaluating their next moves or what they want to do in their life based on what your experiences are? Because you have a different perspective, right? That's just the reality. So how can your perspective, and again, no right or wrong, it's just your perspective, shed some light on some people out there that are thinking about that next move, or that genesis of whatever it is that they're bound to become or work towards?
Yeah, the first thing is stop worrying about yourself. It's not about you. It ain't about you. Like I look at just look at like Kris Jenner. Like, people kind of talk ish on Kris Jenner, but she's like, listen, I was a very, very active parent nurturing my kids on how to make it in America. Now she's got like what? Kylie's got nearly $1 billion, or she's got $1 billion. Kendall will do $1 billion with 818 tequila. Chloe's got her thing going on, all her denim wear and all her clothes. Obviously, Kim's the juggernaut. She's a supernova in the group. And then all the other ancillary people around her are all just killing it. I'm like, that's a super parent.
Yeah.
But she wasn't worried about herself. She's like, I'm just going to push these kids out and let them keep being great and just be like, doing great, honey. So I would say, a lot of people watching, like, who's in your life that you can put more into them than worrying about yourself, because that's where the success is going to come from. I mean, we see that time and time again. We see that with like even the Williams dad. He's like, I put everything into making sure that my girls got to practice on time and play tennis. And now his daughters are the most decorated athletes on the planet. Ever. Like, no, I don't think anyone has more accolades than Serena Williams. Have you ever looked at her stat sheet? It's like 4.5 pages long.
Probably like a textbook.
30 things. It's like 30 per page, and it's like, or 50 per page, and it's like 4 pages long. Like her and like,
that's surprising.
Yeah, her and probably like, I don't know, like Ronaldo or something. Like they probably got the most awards of like all the time. And same thing with like Mayweather's dad. Pouring into him.
It's hysterical you bring that up. I cannot believe it. Just unless you listened to one of my previous podcasts, because my last podcast I did was with Jeff Mayweather, which is Floyd's uncle. And the first 30 minutes of it, it's like we're ramping up. And then the second half of it, he just unloads all the gold. And part of it is how Floyd Sr. had known the minute that he was going to have a son, he was going to be the best boxer ever. And that was the mentality that Floyd Sr. had, and that he was starting to put that in his head. Dude, I got the goosebumps. You have to go listen to it. It's such a good second half in that podcast about what Jeff says about his nephew and how Floyd, came through. All he cared about was being the best. That's all he cared about. And then everything else came around that, because he wanted to be the best once he figured out that he could do it. It's a fascinating share. Like, dude.
But once again, you have two active men, Floyd and what's the uncle's name? Roger?
Well, the uncle was Roger. The one I talked to was Jeff Mayweather. And then you had Floyd Sr. So the three were brothers. But I'm saying,
like, you have all these men, like, focus on this one, like, offspring.
Yeah.
We're going to put all of our resources just toward investing in him. And then it's like, Junior Olympics, he's killing it, goes pro, and then goes undefeated. I think, Mayweather's got to be the only undefeated athlete in all of history. Like over Achilles, Hercules, Excalibur, like all the fictional characters have all been bested. Floyd Mayweather, I never lost no battle ever. No battle ever. He never lost a battle.
Unbelievable, man.
But once again, I'm like, what was the nurturing of that? What was the pot? The pot was a bunch of men around being like, we're not making it about us. We're gonna make it about him.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of that way with Ryan Garcia right now. Ryan Garcia, man, that's a bad boy, bro. Everybody gonna find out. He ain't no punk.
I don't know this story. Fill me in.
Ryan Garcia is this like pretty boy boxer. He's like
Okay.
21 years old.
Okay.
And his parents basically was like, listen, we're gonna build our entire house to be your boxing arena. So they like took over the garage, took all the garage, like the cars out and all the surfboards and everything, just made it his own boxing oasis. They told all of his brothers, he's the one. We all gonna go with that one. And his brothers and his dad are just with him all the time. Canelo, all the guys, just making him a better boxer. And he's undefeated right now. He's about to fight Gervonta Davis soon, real soon. And everyone's like, oh, Gervonta gonna watch the floor with him. I'm like, y'all might not realize what's being poured into that young man.
Right.
He gonna have a thunder coming out of him. So we're gonna see. I mean, Gervonta is a bad boy, bro. That's an angry boy. He got a lot of skill set. He's a tough boxer. But Garcia is getting that fucking love from all those men, bro. He's gonna go in there and be a monster.
Yeah. And you never know until they actually do collide, man. That's the whole idea, right? They got to come together and get after it.
Yeah.
It's like life. Like, how the hell are you going to know if you can act unless you get in the ring and start acting?
Yeah. And that boy, his fists are lightning. They're lightning. And they're showing him all the greats. He's studying tape. His entire life is like entertained by like the greats. That's what Mike Tyson was talking about like Charlemagne the Great, Alexander the Great. He studied Genghis Khan, freaking Sun Tzu. Like Mike Tyson was a mental athlete. And the kid was 19 knocking out grown men back in the 90s.
Yeah.
Insane.
That's scary.
It's
that man's
insane.
scary. He still will whip some butt too, man. I bet you nowadays he would just take you out of misery.
Mike is breaking your ribs. If that punch lands, he's breaking your ribs. If you block, he's breaking your arm.
Yeah.
Iron Mike is not just a name. It's a real deal.
Oh man. Listen. I want to talk about some of your other business stuff too, man. I mean, there's like with you. I always knew that if we talked and we had one of these conversations, we could literally spend days. But obviously, with what you've got going on the entertaining side, and then with the business side. First of all, fill us in with what you're working on that side of business, man, because I know it's really important to you on the health, wellness, so the suffering side of, helping people break through, quality products you are a part of the company and have a huge stake in. And then we'll kind of unpack that a little bit, but I have some tying questions to that too, man. But share with us what that beautiful name behind us to the side looks like and what it reads for.
All right, I'm going to tell you what it is. So the science mind still rules my world. So I had this idea and I told my brother. And my brother told me, you can't do that. I said, what do you mean I can't do that? He's like, that doesn't make any sense. It can't be done. I said, you're saying it as if because no one's done it before, I can't do it. And he's like, basically, yeah. So I had a chip on my shoulder. So I went and did it. He told me it couldn't be done. I must have figured out how to do it because this right here is the patent for it.
A little bright.
That's my I got the United States patent for my idea, this technology idea that I got to rival Google. And so then I went to a venture capitalist to try and get them to fund my project before I had the patent. And they're like, giving me all these questions. Why should we trust you? Have you ever built a business before? I'm like, I'm a scientist. I've been running my life since I was 13 years old. What do you mean? Like, yeah, but you never built a business before. So now I was like, okay, we'll build a business. So I started building this one, Elite Performance Medicine. This business right here. And, it's better science, better medicine. So the first product we had was Reborn. It's for muscle and joint pain. It's incredible. And if you got any kind of like carpal tunnel, tennis elbow, osteoarthritis, rheumatoid arthritis, neck pain, back pain, like anything, you just take a little bit of stuff right here, maybe a dime size is a lot. Just rub it on any area of focus, and it's a cellular regenerator. So it helps your cells regenerate properly, which is how you get healed. So it's helping them do it faster. We got tons of products up here. This one right here is for the skin right here. It's called Elite. And this is just like vanity at its finest. Like everyone's wondering, like, how do you stay so young? I'm like, I put this drop on my face every single night. That's how I stay young as a gun. And then we got tons of other products in here. We got stuff for everything, mothers and babies, stuff for athletes, stuff for military. We've got 2 soaps now, River and Ocean. We got a tanning accelerator. It's called Vacation. It's like a very clean, all earth, like suntan accelerator, but it helps you, like, it's a sunblock too. But basically, like, what we decided was, if everything is crap, what if we just made something that wasn't crack? Wasn't crack. So we just made formulas without compromise. There's no preservatives, no fillers, no carcinogens, no perfumes, no fragrances, nothing, no inactive ingredients. Everything that's in the bottle, they're all the active ingredients, and they all work. And we basically researched the Old Testament and looked up this verse from Ezekiel 47:12. It says, "Their leaves will not wither. Their leaves are for healing." And we were like, yo, let's take that, research the Old Testament, put it with some science, and just make it work. And it's taken off amazing. But this right here is the business that I built so that I can go to a venture capitalist, my other first idea, and say, you built a business for them? I'm like, yeah, I built a business, got products in market, got doctors using it, chiropractors, estheticians, med spas. The consumer loves it. It's at the right price point. I've learned so much about servicing this business that my next business, I'm about to wow the world. I'm gonna be in the Jeff Bezos lane. I'm gonna be in that in the Sergey Brin lane, the Google guys. I'm gonna be in that lane for sure.
And that's the product that you just shared with, like, leading into that, as far as what you had.
The first thing I did, the technology thing that I have the patent for. Yeah.
So you like that? I'm glad. I'm glad you opened that up with that angle, because I think that's very what you said there, and I hope people catch this. It's like you tried to go to venture capital. They said, sorry, kid, you don't have any business experience. All right, motherfucker, I'm going to go over here and build something so I can get business experience. And then I'm going to come back to you and say, okay, well, now what? Whatever. They can't argue with you on that one because you built something, right?
Yeah.
So
that's the God. That's where God did that on purpose. He gave me a chip on my shoulder. I have a chip on my shoulder. It is as if you were Michael James Jordan, and the basketball player at your local high school tells you cannot play on the basketball team.
That ain't good.
He's like, really? I can't play basketball? Sure. Okay. All right. Sounds good. Okay.
And you would think that you would have it because of your accomplishments in movies and TV. People would think that you might have it easier because you have a brand, you have a reputation, so that more doors would open. But I think this is a great testament that that's not the case necessarily. You still have to earn your right? And you were willing to go earn your right to be able to do that. And so talk to me about some of that mentality, because aside from the chip, I think a lot of people get into these ideas today that it's like, well, they already have a brand and they already have the reach and they have familiarity in the marketplace. So it's like, oh, I got to play from behind. But for you, was there friction, man? Was there some overcoming obstacles? I mean, dude, building a business, I don't care who you are.
Oh, you asked for friction. That's what you asked for. Yeah. Like, I have this thing called Highway Fit, and it's about, listen, if you've never known fitness, if you're overweight, if you ain't got no money, you can't go to the gym. If you got 3 kids, if you got, it's snowing outside, whatever limitation, I got rid of all that, all of it. It's no weights, no gym, no travel. You can do Highway Fit anytime, anywhere, every day. Right. The slogan is your road, your freedom.
Yep.
So I did that, and it was great. I helped a lot of people. People lost 250 pounds. People who were in shape was like, I stayed in shape. It was great. But like, when people go to the gym with me, I'm like, all right, let's get the 5-pound weight. Like the 5-pound weight, I'm like, you want to get the 2.5-pound weight? I mean, if there's a smaller one, we can get that one first. And I tell them, I'm like, listen, we're going to do 5-pound reps, great form, as many as we can. And today might have been, you might consider that an easy day. I don't think it's easy. because tomorrow I'm going to add 10 pounds. We're going to do the same thing we did yesterday. We're going to add 10 more pounds. And then the next day, we're going to add 15 more pounds. We will keep adding pounds until you break. Now, I have a feeling you're going to break up here. Because you're going to be like, it's the third day. We're using 15 pounds. It's not heavy enough. I'm not getting anywhere. Yes, you are. You're getting farther than you think. And you're building up the mental strength to be like, if it's easy, it still has to be done. You still got to do it. If you feel like you're getting no results, still do it. Because that's the pedigree, that's the mental strength you're going to have when it starts to get harder. So now people go to the gym with me and they see me and they're like, hand me some big ass weight. I'm like, that weight's just 5 pounds heavier than the weight that I had yesterday. I'm about to crush this shit. 45, 50 reps. People have been at the gym with me and they're like, how many pull-ups are you doing? I'm like, I do 70 pull-ups. And then take a 25-second break and do 60 pull-ups. And then take a 25-second break and do 50 pull-ups. Like, I'm on this.
Yeah.
But it's both the monotony of feeling like nothing's happening, and then the challenge of being like too much is going on. That's what makes you strong.
Yeah.
And like the thing about like people like Jordan is like, that fucker just came from the weight room before the game. He was just bench pressing 400 pounds before the game. That's why he's annihilating you guys. The biggest center in the league at the time was probably like Ostertag or Ewing. He's like, I just benched you for breakfast before I got here. Yep. Of course I'm gonna dunk on you with my tongue out. Bitch ass. So you know, like I get the nose, but I'm like, that's strength. That's God being like, you want to become more knowledgeable, you want to become a better salesman? We give you 1,000 no's, you'll figure that shit out. I'm like, oh God. Like today I pitched something to a investor today. I mean, he almost told me no. But I've been getting a lot of no's, so I was prepared for it. I'm like, I got enough no's now. I'm not taking any more no's. And I just kept knocking on the door, telling him about like, listen, here's what's in it for you. Here's the opportunity and why it's fleeting. Like, you can miss this flight, but then you're gonna miss Coachella. It ain't gonna be here the next day. So there's a little bit of urgency what's going on. It's gonna benefit you, and you're gonna have like, you know, this investment is gonna last you longer than the one time. I just went in on this guy. And then I learned you gotta have a rep. You gotta have somebody else that you tell them to call, so you ain't gotta talk to them no more. You tell them your story, and you pass the buck. I said, hey, call my rep. So I pitched them, and then I backed out of it and said, call the person who's gonna represent me. Because you ain't gonna listen to me, you're gonna listen to them talk about me. So go ahead, listen to them talk about me.
And did they reach out?
Oh, I mean, we'll see what happens right now. You know, God willing, but don't tell me no. I'm gonna be a better salesman next time. I don't want to hear I don't know what's gonna happen if they tell me no. So but I think you know they're good guys. So we'll see what happens.
I mean, so I think, you know, when you start talking about all of the actions that you're taking in the business world, man, I just, you know, I start to think about a lot of the conversation that's taking place in the world today was like, you know, people got their main thing and then they got their side thing, right? It's like their main thing and their side thing. You've got, and I'm curious now, I'm like, you know, I want you to enlighten us a little bit with like how you do both, right? In the acting world, like, are you off on set, you know, for 3 months, 6 months, a year, and then you come back, or are you on the phone while you're in New York shooting Harlem, or, you know, taking business calls while you're downtime, or are you passing that off fully to somebody else to do it? Like, what's the nature of how you make those work? Like, how are you utilizing your resources as Rob Ri'chard with incredible reach and brand exposure down to the basics of what it takes to build the business while also going out there and kicking ass and acting?
Yeah, man, you gotta have wisdom. And to have wisdom, you must listen. You must be a student and get that poured into you. And then while you're a student, you must start teaching someone else who knows less than you. that's how you'll find out what you're retaining and what you'll know.
Hmm.
Not only am I listening to God and listening to people who are masters above me and listening to people in my universe, and I do have my soundboard, people like you that we talk and we can hear our thoughts come out loud, but I also teach younger people everything that I'm working on to see how well I know it. Now, I had this one girl that I dated named Christine Klingspor.
What a name.
And when she told me that her last name meant like steel spear, I'm like, what do you mean steel spear? She said, my family armed the barbaric army with steel swords and shields, and her family like gave all the weapons to the barbarian army. And I went like, tell me more. And she was saying that there's this thing that they invented, the word is called vertical integration. It's when all of your businesses work cohesively with each other. So they owned the mountain that had the steel. Then they built the business that was the steel refining company. Then they built the blacksmith, like you know, whatever, like union or whatever, to get them to manufacture the steel. Then they recruited young people and turned them into soldiers. Everything folded in on itself. I'm like, what's that word? I'm like, vertical integration. Yeah. I'm like, I'm gonna remember that one.
Yeah. But it's like you being a student though, right? It's like you generating your business intelligence. And so it's so I think
so people ask me like, how do you stay so fit with all that you're doing? I'm like, I way fit. There's no weights, no gym, no travel. I can do it anyway.
Yeah. Right there, right in your living room.
Right. And they're like, how do you not sleep and you look so good? I'm like, the EPU stuff. It's like right there in the pocket usually. I just keep it in the pocket and take a little bit out, put it on my, you know, under my eyes, put it on my forehead, put it on my face, my neck, and I stay young. They're like, how do you not rest? I'm like, I told you, eat these vegetables. Beets, carrots, cucumbers, celery, spinach, kale, parsley. Just get the vegetables. They got it all over the place. Go to Robux. You can go to Whole Foods. You just get them to just juice it. I'm like, if you're doing all this stuff, like all the stuff that I'm doing all folds in on itself.
That's a great point. It's a very solid point. You're clearly what's the word? Or two words, in demand. And I think about, by the way, you don't sleep. I remember when we went out once in Vegas, it was like, dude, this dude's out all night. I'm like, how the hell does he do? I'm like,
I did 130 hours last week. 130 hours of work.
It's 10:30 right now. I'm like, dude, it's time to hit the sack for old daddy over here, man. You know what I'm saying? I gotta get up early.
I got four phones, and they all go to sleep before I do. I'm like, oh, this was at 1%. This was at 1%. Yours at what shit? I'm like, they all go to sleep before me.
That's funny. That is funny. I gotta clip that right there, man. That's a great line. I got four phones. They all go to bed before me. That's the hustle mentality right there. Straight up. That's good. That's so good. Going back to what I was saying, you're in demand, right? You clearly wanted in different capacities and for projects. Does a man like you at this point still get, I'll take it either way. So it's like either a virtue or a vice out of the opportunities that come to you. Like, do you get a phone call and somebody hits you up and it's like, yo, Snoop Dogg, let's having a party tonight, man. Let's go kick it. And you're like, yeah, let's go kick it. And then that's part of what you do because it's your world, and then it takes you away from doing something business-wise? Or do you have maybe a filtering system for how you interact with those things? I realize, like, dude, distractions are the real deal for a lot of people today. And they can't really focus, or in your case, what you just said, vertically integrate well enough yet. So it's like they said breaking focus, breaking projects, and they're all over the damn place. I know you happen to do a lot. So I'm curious how you think about that, right? Or what that means to you in that sense.
Yo, I just think about it as God. God's looking out for me. When the phone rings and they invite me to a party, I'm like, oh, there goes God. He just hooked me up. He was like, listen, I need you to go meet the person I want you to meet right now.
Yeah.
Now he tells me, he's like, listen, God told me this. He said, listen, I will only give you seeds. They can grow into orchards. but I'm only going to give you the DNA. It's actually the most important thing because it can be replicated over and over and over again. So when I get an opportunity that comes across my nest, I'm like, what is this DNA that I have that God brought to me that I can use this 1,000,000 times and it's going to be the same thing? This is a lemon seed. It's always going to be a lemon. It's never going to surprise me. It'll be a lemon. It'll grow a tree. It'll grow lemons. And inside the lemons, there'll be more seeds. And the seeds will grow trees. There'll be lemons. It'll just be lemons. He's like, so just stick with that plan. If I put something in your life, it ain't gonna change. Just call it what it is and enjoy that and grow it.
That's interesting. That's a neat way to look at it, man. You know, what's so cool about that approach is that you've taken what you value, it seems like, and you've just put it at the front of your thinking pattern and your decision-making process. In essence, it's like, okay, that's there. Which also I think is why your motor runs so fast and so hard, because you just keep following God's purpose for you and you get into those things and you have a different mentality around that versus somebody that's like, excuse my French, fuck life. I don't want to go deal with that crap, when it could be the opportunity of their lifetime. And so they turn it down and they don't even go to try out the thing. And then next thing you know is there's just some absentee feeling of life. And so it's like, what am I even doing here? Right. I hope that people catch that too. I think that's a great way to look at it, in addition to a lot of the other things you said, man. I mean, that's really good. What is it that you're cranking on right now? Or do you have anything in the hopper as far as upcoming productions? Are you getting ready to jump back into some things?
Yeah, for sure. So we're approaching NBA All-Star Weekend next weekend, and we have a big movie. It's called Sweetwater. It's the first Black NBA player. So essentially the Jackie Robinson of the NBA. And previously, only one person's ever depicted him, and it was Michael Jordan. He did an SNL skit where he played Nate Sweetwater Clifton. But now we have a whole movie that's about him, and it's going to be coming out April 14th in 2,000 theaters across America.
That's amazing, man. Good for you, brother.
We produced it with the NBA and Clint Eastwood's company. It's fantastic.
So let's I love that, man. Like obviously you keep earning your success, but I think people are very curious, because I'm very curious, right? So it's like, how does that start for you? Like, I'm not talking about the fact that you've already got a tremendous amount of recognition and accolades in the business. For that particular deal, does somebody hit you up, your agent, and say, yo, Rob, we're interested in having you in this movie? Or are you like, you know, just mingling at the right place at the right time? Or do you hit somebody up and say, yo, I heard you were doing this, and that. Can I get in on that? Like, pull us into your shoes for a little bit, man. Like, take us on that journey. I think that would be so much fun if you could talk to us about like how something like that evolves. People would be like the unheard of side of things.
My lovely doctor, her name is Dr. Suzanne Trott. She got sick. And I went to her office and asked her, I was like, do you want me to run your medical office for you since you can't manage it? And she was like, I can't believe you even offer that. I'm like, yeah. I'm like, I mean, I gotta learn, but like I can learn on the go. I'm like, I'll help you. I'm like, I'll just, make it where we get some doctors by proxy to come in here. You can do your profession, and we'll, manage the front desk and keep the patients happy and look out for you while you're going to get some medical attention. She ended up not needing me to do it because her lawyer kind of stepped in. But as I walked out of that meeting, the phone rang, and I was looking at my phone. And I was like, "Who's this?" And I answered it, and Martin Gigi, who I just play basketball with all the time, who I've always loved to talk to him. We have a great soundboard with each other, and I love his family, his wife, and his kids. He's like, "I got this movie. You're in it with me." And I said, "That's it. It's sold." I said, "When do we start?" He goes, "I'll see you at practice on Monday." I said, "All right, that's it." I said, "Just tell whoever's producing it, Tim, who's with Clint Eastwood's company, just to call my rep. But like, let's do it." I'm like, "I'm in with you, Martin." And so he's just like, "That's it, huh?" I was like, "Yeah, that's just how it goes." And I just said yes. And then Next day, started practice, and then we make this huge Harlem Globetrotter movie. It's about the Harlem Globetrotters in like the 1840s, and Nate Sweetwater Clifton being recruited by the Harlem Globetrotters, basically being on the road, struggling, and then the New York Knickerbockers and a couple of the other owners in the NBA were like, we want to invite him to play for the NBA. The movie is phenomenal. But I just, I knew there was going to be a beautiful opportunity. I didn't have to question it too much. I'm like, God was like, oh, you want to work? Oh, you want to do something? Okay, I'll give you some work.
Yeah.
So right when I walked out of one office, the phone rang. He's like, I gave you some work. You just asked for something.
Yeah.
So I just said yes to it immediately.
That's awesome, man. And obviously that guy's the star, I'm imagining.
Yeah, his name's Everett Osborne is the Martin Gigi is the director.
Got
he's
it.
a phenomenal director. He's a God first, family first kind of guy. Every single day, his kids run set every day. His son is like a master of NBA history. You can ask him a stat line on any player at any era, and his kid knows it. It's like an absolute like savant. It's incredible. And I asked the kid, I was like, is this movie going to work? He's like, oh, yeah, this is going to work. All the kids are going to watch this one. I'm like, all right, there you go. You're in charge. If all the kids are going to watch it, then I'm in.
That's awesome. That's so good.
Yeah.
So is it safe to say that, like in other worlds, it's good to have the right relationships? Is that something that you can take out of that? Like, okay, so let's extract that again, because I really find the value in exploring this with you. Is Martin a guy that you did successful work with before? Because somebody can take that out of, their life and say, okay, well, you know what, maybe I have to go and, earn the right to something with somebody that's doing some great stuff. And then maybe that will lend me the opportunity to do something even bigger down the road.
I never knew Martin was a director ever. This is a guy at the park that I played basketball with that I always treated like gold. I mean, I treat everybody like gold. I'm of service. So I'm always looking out for fellow man. I don't need you to be somebody who's important. I mean, I feel like the janitor is very important. I mean, a clean room is a clean room. Everyone loves a clean room. It doesn't matter what room they're in.
Right.
So I'm like, everyone's job is important. So, I just treat everybody with the highest level of just like anointment that like, you're here for a reason. I appreciate you. I'm grateful for you, no matter what job you do. And it's kind of like, I guess it came back full circle. I'm just so grateful.
So true. Wow. From playing ball and just being a good human being. Funny how simple that is, yet effective.
Yeah. But, but I would say, even above that, it was the fact that my relationship without weaponizing God, like obviously we all have our religion, and some people's religion is, they're Islam or they're Catholic or they're, Hindu or they're Buddha, or some people think they're their spirit, their meditation is their religion. Oh, that's great. But you still got to get up to God first. Like, I feel like religion is like kind of like your favorite kind of vehicle. Like some people like motorcycles, some people like trucks, some people like SUVs. Like the religion is just the vehicle that you're in.
Yeah.
Like
it's the wardrobe.
Where
it's the wardrobe.
Going is God,
or the wardrobe that they're putting around God, right? It's like God is God, but then you're putting, a suit jacket on him, or then the next guy's putting a sweater on him, or the next guy's putting a t-shirt on him. And it's like, well, that's that. It's like, he's still God though, right?
That's still God. Yeah. Like
I'm glad you dressed them up.
Yeah, for sure. That's a great. I love that metaphor. It's a metaphor. Analogy is metaphor.
If I can look, this is where we got to go find that. No, this is where we got to go find the young kids again that are in 5th grade, man. We got to go ask them because I don't freaking remember that stuff.
I think that's an analogy, but you're correct. Yes.
Yes.
Like is a simile. I think it's like is a simile.
I think you're right.
If you say it's like, then that means a simile.
And what is it? Is a metaphor is another way of painting a picture for life, kind of through the words. Is that right? Is that what I remember?
Yep.
Yeah.
And then make an analogy is the comparison.
Yep.
But there's there's 4 of them. There's simile, analogy, metaphor. There's another one.
This goes to show you what we learned back in the day doesn't stick with everybody, man.
I'm not smarter than a 5th grader. I know that much. I bet you if I asked the fifth grader, he'd be like, the other ones are doing this. I'm like,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah,
guy,
yeah.
you're right. You're
That's
absolutely
too
right.
funny. I
Yeah.
dig it, man.
So yeah, so sticking with that same principle, God always treats me to be of service to everybody. And then I was trying to be of service to one person, and he immediately put somebody else. He's like, you want to be of service to somebody? I got somebody who needs your help. And then that was the director. And obviously, people, the job that I do, it seems glamorous, but it's not. Rob, you got to be at the gym at 4:00 in the morning. We're going to have 16-hour days. Like, you're going to be like hot, cold, hot, cold, hot, cold, sweaty, dry in these short shorts. Like, it's not glamorous. I get the final product. I get to walk a red carpet, and everyone's like, oh my God, that's so good. I'm like, yeah, I worked my butt off on this project. Because I just asked God to work a second ago. He's like, you want to run something? I'll make you run for fucking thousands of suicide labs.
I think what you just said is extremely underrated in the sense that people don't understand the depth of what it is you all do in that world and how far one can take it. So I got two questions for you, man. Then we'll wrap up because I know it's getting late, man. I know you want to get back to your stuff. We'll have to rock again. The first one is I'm going to go back to when we talked again. Not sure if it was that same day. I think I may have asked you that after I watched you in that studio when you read your script and I was there right there reading with you. I said, what makes, whether it was you, different than the best in the world, and or what's the difference between the average actor and the best actor that everybody admires and from the inside as you see it? And you said something to me that I remember. I imagine you're going to say the same thing, but it was kind of on that same note of like how hard you guys work. But you said the ones that are at the top echelon, they're willing to do something that no other actor or actress is willing to do. And I found that extremely fascinating. And I've actually said that to a lot of people about what makes, like, when I watch a movie, I'm like, and by the way, this is the perfect example. The other day, I saw a video clip of Tom Cruise literally flying off a cliff in his motorcycle to do a stunt for Mission Impossible. I'm like, the dude's out of it. And they did it like 20 times. I don't know if that was the exact number. And I was like, all right, dude's got some big, audacious testicles, and he's ready to go, like, literally define this. Do you remember what you said? Do you remember what you told me?
Oh, the one that died on their sword? Is that what I said?
That's exactly it. Yeah. That's exactly it.
Yeah. And you
elaborate on that.
Like, so I didn't know what I said before, but I know what's important to me. And so, like, you can see the consistency, because that was, what was that? I mean, how many years ago you think that was? Probably
it's 2019.
Yeah. So even like four or five years
maybe
ago.
2020.
Yeah, that's like, over 1,000 days ago. I'm still on the same shit. Like, you know what I'm saying? Down this
sure
sword.
Thing, man.
Yeah.
Sure thing. And in your example, like, so for example, ladies and gentlemen, so Rob was sharing with me, like, you brought up a few names. Meryl Streep. I remember you talked about her. I remember you talked about Matthew McConaughey, and was it Dallas Buyers Club? Did he get, it's like the point was that he was making was what these humans go through to play that role is unheard of. And the biggest one, obviously, I think a lot of people realize, was Heath Ledger as the Joker. Like, they literally killed him because he played it so well.
Off the edge. She went off the edge, correct?
Yeah. And so that's what you said about what people don't realize in that craft. It's like, to be great, sometimes you have to go there and completely immerse yourself in something. And I think that's a good parallel in general.
You're like in a mental labyrinth. It's almost like you're spelunking in your own mind. People don't know what that word means, spelunking, but spelunking is inter-earth cave diving. It's a dangerous sport. It's when you see people like climbing into caves.
Interesting.
Sometimes they climb so far down they can't find their way out of the earth, and they're trapped down there and they die.
Why?
So it's like mental spelunking.
So that's what they're doing.
Yeah, man. Yeah. It's dangerous, and some people have a tether to find their way out after the project. Some people like Heath Ledger, they can't find their way out.
Unfortunate, man.
That's sad. Man. Rest in peace, But that's the work of a true artist. Van Gogh cut his ear off. I mean, last night, one of my students, he came over to my house at 10 o'clock? Still at my house working on his scenes at 5:30 in the morning.
Wow.
I'm like, oh, I'm betting on you. You're the racehorse guy. He like
He
brought
wants
me
it.
dinner. He brought me dinner and just like we worked on it. And I mean, obviously he's one of my students, so he's under my tuition or whatever. But we worked till 5:30 in the morning. I'm like, you're relentless. It's some Tim Grover shit. And I'm with it. I'm here for it.
Shout out Tim Grover, man. Damn good that is.
Grover.
Yeah, that's good stuff right there.
I never read his book, but I know who he is, though.
He's awesome, man. It's funny
I've
you
never
say
read
that.
any of these books that I reference. I've never read any of them.
But you heard about him.
I heard about him though.
Hey, sometimes a shout out is good, man. That's hey. Relentless is a good word though, regardless, right? So regardless, relentlessness. How about that one, man? I just made up a new one. Y'all can coin that. So 5 a.m. student crushing it. That's awesome. Let's wrap up with this, man. I think this will bring it home a little bit.
But he's here every night though. It's not a one-off. He comes here all the time. I just give him the key to the door. I'm just like, let's get to work. And he's ready to work tirelessly. Yeah. And you know, he's my student. And then the first job he booked was a 9-episode arc on All American. It's his first job ever. His agent told him he was not gonna get the job. I'm like, God is gonna see it to you that you're gonna get this job. Ain't no one work as hard as you have. And then he booked it. And then now he's gonna get this new television. Like his second job is gonna be a series regular on a new hit TV show.
Wow.
And I know it. I'm like, he's at my house till 5:30 in the morning. Of course he's gonna get it.
Yeah. So in that case, you're saying that it's paid dues in that situation. It's less luck, and it's actually obviously there's probably some luck in there because you know things just are the way they are. But because of this situation with this guy working his tail off every day, he's running into things because he's just better. Is that the because I understand that.
I think there's something about the universe that is balanced enough that they're like, you know, that the universe is abundant. We will make a lane for you that does not exist. We're expanding into nothing all the time. Yeah. There's always room for you. It's essentially the reason why everyone can be great on the planet. Everybody in the solar system can be great. The universe has got room for it. Endless room.
Your philosophy, I love that philosophy again, because the answer to the question was not like, yeah, he's great. It was no, the universe works. And if you work in the universe, like he is, as an example, that tirelessly, that relentlessly, the universe is going to expand and open up and you're going to walk into it, because that's the law almost of the universe. It's like, so be in favor of the universe by working your ass off and something's going to happen. I've never heard it like that, dude. Like I've not. That's why you guys.
You sow.
Yeah, no, I know that part, but the way you framed it, which was a subtle difference, but is powerful, man. I think that's super. What I love most about life at this point, dude, is really thinking differently, right? It's like, what is somebody going to share with me where it's like, well, I never thought of it that way before, right? I get it. Like a lot of people projecting the same basic bullshit, and it's like, God damn, could you say the same thing over some more? Like I've heard it 1,000 times. Bring some new things, be some original, like send me some original content, right? Some of your own thought patterns. And so that framing of it right there was pretty solid, man. So it was like, oh, well, that's really good. Because I think somebody would say, well, I'm working really hard, but I'm not getting what I want. Well, the question might be, well, maybe you're not working hard enough. Therefore, the universe hasn't found a space to move open for you yet. Right. So like, I think people could really I think they could end up blaming something outside themselves versus looking inward and saying, well, you know what, I just got to do more. And the fact that you do more is when stuff starts to happen, right? Because in favor of, I'm just going off on a tangent there. I could keep going, but anywho, well said, son. Well said.
But also, I think, you know, that's why we're friends, is because, you know, like there's a lot of investment that we put into thought. And that's a component of it too. Like, how hard did you think about it? Did you think about what you actually wanted? Because you're going to get what you asked for.
Yeah, man.
And, so that's one thing too you got to handle. What you ask for, you're going to get. Every time. So you got to be able to manage that and be specific about what you're asking for.
Yep. And sometimes, man, you don't even know that you're asking for something because it's so guarded or blocked out that it's almost like this little subtle, elusive little thing that's taking place way beneath the hood. And you're like, well, why am I keep getting the same things? Well, it's because you didn't even recognize that you were saying you wanted something 1,000 times so negatively that you just keep getting it, but you didn't even hear it. That's the scary part. Like, you don't even hear it, which means you're just not aware to it, right? So I've always found that. So it's like you got to tune in.
People ask me, how do I feel about, like, the amount of work that I put in? Like, I guess this is the general level of popularity. And I always say, oh, I asked for this. I wanted to be able to still operate, go to the grocery store and go, just have a part of my life that's still, ordinary while still doing extraordinary work. I've enjoyed my 20s and 30s and done a lot of bad shit and gotten away with it, to be honest, because I'm not the biggest person on the planet. I'm like, that sounds like jail. Like, seriously, like, some of these people are so big. I was thinking about the other day, I was like, how long it takes to fill up your gas tank? If you have a car and you go to the gas station, you got to fill it up. Every car is like 20 gallons, and it just takes its time. But we never see pictures of Kim Kardashian pumping gas. I'm like, because she's not there. She can't go to the gas station. She must have some company bringing her gas to her. And it sounds like it's probably expensive. I mean, sure, she can afford it. But at some point, I feel like it's got to suck that you're like, I can't go to a regular gas station. That's like zero freedom.
So true. That's a good point. That's a very good point. It's funny you bring that up because I was actually going to ask you about something along those lines. I was literally going to ask you because I think here's why. Majority, and I was talking about this with somebody else this morning that works with a lot of incredibly successful people. He's an agent. He said that one of the key things about his journey has been the fact that he had access to certain people and he's been around it, and that people on the outside in the business world want to be around that, right? They want to be close to that because there's some sort of motivator in there that's machismo, status driven. And I get it because I felt
social
it before.
Esteem.
Of course, man.
Prestige.
Yep. Power, right? So it goes to me asking the question about the fame part for you, because I remember when we were down here in Vegas, that literally we were at my apartment. We walked outside, 20 people were like, I know you. And I just kept stopping. I was like, son of a bitch, man, this dude's getting all kinds of hits. For you, to the layman's folk and the people that are out there that have this idea of fame, what do you have to say to that? Is what they're looking for in fame and status everything that it shapes up to be, as seen through your lens, because you've now been in it for 3 decades?
That's a great question. I would say it can only be worth what you invested in it. I've been every corner of the earth, and everyone's like, man, dude, I watched your movie with my wife, grandma, kid, whatever. It was fantastic. Can I have a hug?
Yeah.
And I think damn, I put so much work in it that someone wants a hug from me. That's worth being famous.
Sure.
But not I wouldn't want to be somebody who people are just laughing at, or being like, you've never affected me in any way positively. If it came quick, it probably won't even feel good.
That's a great way to look at it too, right there. That's pretty empowering right there. I think what we were sort of covering earlier, you probably have a strong feeling on this, was a lot of the times a lot of people would get too big too soon without having done the deep inner work, really understanding who they are, right? And having that sense of values, great leadership to bring you up and keep you grounded and centered in the middle of all the ginormous gains. And so then they become famous and all this pressure comes in on them. They don't have any of the virtues that make them better in their character, help them connect with the outer world more, really understand self-care, self-love, all those different things. And therefore they become, a victim to the pressures almost, in a sense. So it's like, you sound like you have facilitated that in a pretty decent way there, man. I think that's pretty amazing.
I mean, I think it's kind of like currency. Like, if I hand you, like, if we're in Bali, I hand you like 1 million baht. You're like, this $10. You're like, 1 million baht. Like, yeah, it's 1 million baht. It's $10.
Yeah.
It's not 1 million US dollars. It's not 1 million euro, 1 million like British pound. That's a lot more work.
So true. So true.
So it's like, it's like what currency are you dealing with?
Yeah, man. So it's like, if there's one thing I can think about what you've shared here today is sort of the attitude of thinking like a scientist in many of your workings, a lot of leading with service and really being at the forefront there and just treating people like human beings. Obviously in your side, inside the voice of, leaning on and being led by God, and not from a spiritual or a religious standpoint, but just like in the core of just life itself. And then I think also you talk about work, man, like what it takes there to earn the keep, right? And put your chip on your shoulder so that you can go out there and just crush it, get after it, be a dynamic.
I tell you, man, I was driving from my brother's house after just partying all Saturday night. It was Sunday morning. I hadn't gone to sleep, and I drove past this church, and something just pulled me. Like, just pull in the parking lot. I know you ain't slept. Just go inside. And I go inside the church, and I sit in the back. I was standing in the back, and I was listening to the pastor. He was talking about this place called heaven, and he was saying, people always, they don't even know how to describe heaven. They think it's like a place in the clouds. He says it's actually not. Heaven looks exactly like earth. He was saying, but there's no traffic, and there's no like cancer, like nobody dies, and it's like you don't have a shitty boss. There's no like stress or anxiety, but it's still just like earth. And he was saying the one thing that people don't realize is that like in heaven, there's work there. You just work that you do that you don't tire from. You don't ever feel like I'm exhausted and I don't want to do this anymore. So that stuck with me. I was like, so heaven's like work. I'm like, I use that. So I feel like I'm living heaven on earth,
So, wow, man. What a way to wrap it up, brother. That's powerful. Yeah, man. It's like, do more of what you love, man. Find it. Right. And there are some people that would argue the opposite. They're like, no, don't do that. And I think we both probably have flirted on both spectrums, which I think is understandable, right? I think it's based on perspective, personality, and sort of like identification of yourself. Like, what are you moved by? What drives you? And like I said earlier, dude, like life is going, man. It's fast. It's quick, right? So it's like, why are we wasting time?
Well, at some point in life, we're all going to be humbled, right?
Yeah. Ain't that the truth?
The
truth?
Yeah.
All right, man. Last question for you, brother. What does always on the grow mean to you?
Always what?
What does always on the grow mean to you?
There's no days off.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Always on the grow, man. T and D and D-O. There's no days off.
No days off. Hey, let me ask you this: where the party at tonight, baby?
That's right. It's in my house right now. I got 4 or 5 girls in that bedroom right there. The business will be all night long.
Oh man, my man. For the podcast, brother, I'm going to shut this off so we can say goodnight to everybody that was here. We appreciate you all. Make sure you all go and follow this gentleman. Check out his EPM products. Make sure you read that correctly. PRODUCTX.com.
Yeah.
Pick up some of his
EPM Product X. EPMProductX.com.
X.
EPM Product X on all the platforms too. If you go on the TikTok, the Facebook, the Instagram, all of the We're at EPM Product X. Yep, EPM Products.
And then you're at Rob Ri'chard, obviously Robert, or you do,
Yeah.
are you Rob now?
The Robert Ri'chard on every
The Rob.
platform. I'm the Robert Ri'chard on YouTube, Facebook. You can find me everywhere. The Robert Ri'chard. There you go.
And make sure you go check out his movies, all the way back to Cousin Skeeter, and all of the things that he's done up to today, and even what's coming here in the next couple of months following the basketball stars journey. Man, Rob, it's been a pleasure, brother. Appreciate you, man. You the man.
Thank you. I appreciate you, man. Love it.
Back at you.
All right.